Thank you so much for joining us today, everyone. I'm Melissa Wilson. I'm the head of the Enterprise US division of our QR Tiger and just your host for the webinar today. QR Tiger is a leading provider of affordable dynamic QR codes. Our goal is simple, right? We help businesses use QR codes in an easy, flexible, and cost-effective way. Our solutions offer a wide range of cases, so we link websites, custom landing pages for collecting data through forms. We have virtual business cards for instant contact sharing, digital menus, online greeting cards, Wi-Fi passwords, right? Sky's the limit. We've expanded into providing the GS1 Digital Link QR codes, also referred to as QR codes powered by GS1. I think you're going to hear that a lot today. This helps brands be amongst the first to take advantage of the Sunrise 2027 or comply with the new industry regulations. Barcodes are getting an upgrade, basically, right? QR codes powered by GS1 are going to be the new standard. The barcodes you see on products today can only do one thing. They tell the scanner what the product is, right? And that's it. GS1 Digital Link QR codes do a lot more. They pack product details like batch numbers, expiration dates, serial numbers, right? All kinds of attributes we can pack into that one code. And it's a scanner readable web URL. So depending on what device is scanning it, the same code can do multiple things, right? It can open a web page showing customers' product information, or it can register product for inventory and checkout, just like retail stores do today, only better. So think of it like a smart ID for a product. So one code, many possibilities, and that's the upgrade. I'm going to let Andrew Morehead, he is GS1 US's Director of Global Standards, and I'm going to let him take it from here. He is the expert.
Yes, thank you for that introduction.
Yes.
As she said, I'm Andrew Morehead. I'm Director of Global Standards with GS1 US. We'll get into initially who GS1 is for those that don't know, but I focus heavily on AIDC technology. So that's a fancy way to say barcode technologies and the data that goes inside of it, as well as with RFID, because they do work well together. With that being said, I guess let's jump right in. So who is GS1? That's a very good question I love to answer. Many people know us as the barcode people, but there's a lot more that goes into that. So we are a neutral, not-for-profit global organization, and we help make the global language of business, right? We make everything interoperable to work everywhere around the world as it pertains to barcodes and different ways to identify your products, share them, and capture that data as it travels through the supply chain. So outside of just the barcodes, there's a lot behind it, such as the data and how it's formatted and how businesses use that with their partners worldwide. We serve many different industries by creating these standards for industry by industry, and in the use of the identification and data of the global language of business. So with 10 billion scans worldwide within retail environments, there has to be a common way that everybody is working with this technology. And that's what we're here to basically provide since 50 plus years at this point, since the creation of the UPC. So why are these standards needed? A quick example, think about a keyboard. In different countries, the letters and the characters are in different places, yet we all can see them when we look at them. But it's not as interoperable as it should be, right? Sometimes if you start using a keyboard that's in Europe and you start just utilizing it as if you're in the US, you hit the wrong keys. So it's not as interoperable and easy for everybody to use. The same thing with a garden hose spout, right? There's different types of garden hoses out there with thickness and length, but the connection is always the same. We are that intermediary connection that provides that interoperability for businesses to seamlessly connect and interact without having to speak the same language. So just as Melissa was talking, there's a new dimension in barcodes coming into play. This hasn't been happening in a vacuum, I'll say that much. There's been a lot of work and testing that's gone into it. So we're moving from just using 1D barcodes, that typical line and space with the numbers underneath it. Many of us know it as a UPC or AEAN barcode, depending on where you're utilizing them. But we're moving from that to a more dynamic barcode. It can not only just encode that product identification data to help you go beep at checkout and continue that price lookup that's been happening for 50 plus years. It opens up all these additional use cases because you're connecting your product to additional information and data and online. So the why behind this is that a lot of brands and consumers and regulatory bodies are requiring more data. And your 1D barcode is just not able to do it because it just holds that product ID known as a global trade item number or a G10. What is happening is the ability, not only will it outperform your 1D barcodes because of the amount of data that it carries, but it's going to connect your packaging to the internet. And we all know how large that world is. So whatever it is that you're looking for your consumers to find out about your product or even your partners will be able to be more accessible because it's going to be online. And the how is by testing your 2D barcode capabilities. Of course, you can't just jump right in. There's this phrase that we utilize as crawl, walk, and run. Start small, pick a few products, put the 2D barcode on, following the standard, and then test with some of your downstream partners. That way, once you roll it out, it's seamless, and then you can take advantage of all of the different use cases. So what that means is there's three different barcodes that are approved for use as a 2D barcode within the GS1 system of standards and an open supply chain. Two of them are going to provide that web resolvable capability, and one of them is just something that I consider a glorified 1D barcode in that it's going to hold a lot more product information, stay a lot smaller, and have resiliency because of this thing called error correction. So if the barcode is damaged up to 30% or more, it'll still be able to, or less, forgive me, it'll still be able to recreate that barcode and the data that's on it, which is something our 1D barcodes can't do. Once it gets a little scratched, that barcode is null and void, right? You have to go back to manual processes. So that top one, that GS1 data matrix, is just going to be holding additional information and not resolving anywhere on the web or taking you to a website. The bottom two, which is your regular QR code and data matrix, are going to be encoded with GS1 Digital Link QR syntax. That way it can continue to work the way 1D barcodes have worked today by going beep at checkout, and then still connecting to all that additional information as well as use cases or how to handle product and so many different things that this opens up. And the main thing here is that by the end of 2027, Sunrise 2027 is focused on consuming the G10 at point of sale the same way that 1D barcodes do today. That's the minimum requirement here. Let's jump a little bit into the standards around what this looks like. So today you've got your UPC barcode, your 1D barcode, as your data carrier. And it holds your data structure, which is that global trade item number we talked about. And it's only going to hold that G1012. Whereas the future and what a lot of brands are already implementing today is having a QR code with GS1 Digital Link inside of it as the data carrier or the barcode, encoding that same data, but it's going to be put into a URL format or the way that we see websites today. And if we go to the next slide, you'll be able to see how this data builds off of itself by having these additional data elements and how the barcode still stays smaller. And then there's an example of GS1 Digital Link there as well. So at the top, you'll see your regular UPC. We've seen this on products, again, for 50 plus years. There is no sunset. It'll still be able to be used for industry because there's still going to be some pertinent use cases where it's required based on certain sizes of products until technology advances. But that's the only thing it does. It just holds the G10. And so you can see it has that product ID. But when you get into the GS1 data matrix, again, this is the one that is not going to be encoding a web resolvable website or URL. It's just going to have more data points than your UPC barcode will be able to carry. So you can see that it has its product ID, but it also has batch lot and the expiry date in it. And it's already smaller than its 1D counterpart while holding a lot more information. Then there is the QR code utilizing GS1 Digital Link. So in this example, you'll see at the top that says example.com, it has your product ID. That is the minimum requirement for Sunrise 2027. Just having that G10 in the barcode, that way when it's scanned by image-based scanners at point of sale checkout, it'll still be able to do price lookup and we can continue business as usual. But it has these extended capabilities. So you can link to additional data and information around that product from that basic URL with the product ID in it, or you can add the additional data elements directly into that website or that URL. And so it can be actionable at point of sale or throughout the supply chain. and not just linked to. Of course, you can still have actionable data if it's linking to, but as it pertains to some of these regulations that a lot of brands and businesses are having to meet, you're going to have certain data elements or additional data inside of the actual barcode. And this is the best way to do it while making it web resolvable. So there's going to be a time though where there's a transitional period. You're going to have both your 1D barcode and your 2D barcode on the packaging. And that's for many different reasons, right? The main reason here though is because for your downstream partners who haven't had the chance to actually update their scanners, their hardware and software, and any of the systems that interact with your barcodes on your packaging, specifically the 2D barcode, they can still do business as usual and scan that 1D barcode. So you have to have both of them on pack for a transitional period until you know that all of your downstream partners have updated their systems and they can scan 2D barcodes and consume the data on them. So with that being said, you'll have a 1D barcode plus your QR code with GS1 Digital Link or a 1D barcode plus your GS1 data matrix, which is just going to have a lot more information. And then the future state is to have just one barcode that meets all of your needs. So if you're not looking to utilize 2D barcode, you can keep with your 1D barcode. Um, but again, it has that limited capability of just encoding the G10. But that future state of having one barcode on pack would look like just the QR code in the middle on the right side here that has the G10 underneath. And then once that's scanned, it actually takes consumers to places as well as your downstream partners to that additional information. And then the next slide is just showing what that placement is going to look like when you have to have both of them next to each other. In order for scanners, one, to remain scanning barcodes at checkout at the same speed that they're doing today with 1D barcodes, it has to be within this distance, which is 55 millimeters or about 2 inches from the center of your 1D barcode and creating that circumferential radius around it. Your 2D barcode will have to be inside of that radius. This is also going to help prevent double scans. The last thing brands and anybody wants when they're checking themselves out or a cashier's checking them out is to be charged twice for that same item. Following this placement standard will ensure that your barcodes are going to scan properly at point of sale checkout without any issues at all. And there's been lots of testing around this to ensure that these barcodes don't cause those double scans and keep those maintained speeds. We did testing for a few years, and there's some documentation out there. If you're wanting it, we can definitely get that to you. Now, I'm going to call this the meat and potatoes of the webinar right now, because this is what a lot of people are looking at. The different use cases that open up just because you're utilizing a 2D barcode, right? That 1D barcode, it's done its job. You can check out, leave the store, it gets the price. But with 2D barcodes, it opens up different use cases for each sector, each different industry sector. Now, within some of these sectors, there's always a regulatory activity around it. So some of that regulatory requirement may be driving the use and adoption of 2D barcodes as an imminent need, but still brands want to take advantage of all of the benefits it provides outside of that. So it'll vary by sector, but the technical requirements will be the same. We're going to start with the fresh food sector. There are some great use case studies out there today, specifically with 7-Eleven. They have enabled expiration dates within 2D barcodes in over 12,000, I believe, of their stores, starting in Thailand and then spreading out all over the world to help with fresh food, because that is a major focus for many different retailers that are selling fresh products and ultra fresh food, is ensuring that they're safe for consumers and that product data and transparency is usable to reduce food waste. So 7-Eleven implemented 2D barcodes with expiry date in them for this specific purpose. But many people that are looking to meet FSMA 204 regulations in the United States already have to meet certain regulations that require having your traceability lot code inside of it. So that's going to have your product identifier, your G10, a batch lot, and expiry date inside of one barcode to help with that food safety and traceability. And if we go to the next slide, sorry, I'm over here trying to click. I forgot I don't have access. So another big one is CPG, consumer product goods. Here are some examples of 2D barcodes from Procter & Gamble, L'Oreal, Pepsi, as well as some other alcoholic beverages. In utilizing 2D barcodes for this, it's a mass industry adoption for meeting many different regulations, right? So there's Digital Product Passport, which is an EU-wide circular economy initiative, ensuring to be able to identify that product even post-life and post-purchase for reuse and maybe refurbishment. Of course, you have FSMA 204 guidelines that are going to intertwine with this for people that are selling any type of sodas or foods that fall within that guideline. And then you also have the alcoholic beverage labeling EU initiative, which requires certain data elements. And the only way that this is possible is by having a data carrier or a barcode that can carry all this additional data. So your 1D barcode just can't help meet all of these regulations, and consumers are looking also for that additional data that can be linked to about these products because they're wanting to shop with what's in line with their habits and even their morals these days, right? If it's not in line with how they look at products, how they look at sustainability, where the product was sourced from, it's going to sway how they actually choose to buy the product. And so consumers are looking to scan these barcodes and get as much information around these products as possible. Now, the next is AGM, apparel and general merchandise. This is a big one. There's a use case here where Puma has and Patagonia have implemented 2D barcodes alongside having RFID tags with those labels or barcodes. So this is a completely 2D success story that marries two technologies that have been around for a while, but are actually serving industry in the best way. So again, this is to help meet different regulatory requirements like Digital Product Passport, but it's providing a bunch of different information around the products as it moves through the supply chain for checkout and for sustainability purposes. So having that RFID feature to where you can mass scan everything without a scanner is fantastic. And then having the 2D barcode to identify the specific product is how they work together. And QR codes with digital link are making all of this possible. So within the apparel segment, there's a lot of interest in sustainability. This barcode is definitely helping to meet that. All right. And next we've got healthcare. This is a big one because they have been utilizing 2D barcodes for some time now. And that's because there's a lot more regulation in healthcare. So these have been on many non-retail healthcare items, such as the equipment, maybe even medications, pharmaceutical items, but now it's spilling into the retail healthcare items as well for over-the-counter products. So having these 2D barcodes on these products gives you all of this additional data to be able to track where it came from, making sure it's authentic, right? It came from that manufacturer. There's no issues with the actual medications, any of these over-the-counter products that are being purchased. And it gives that visibility to supply chain and extends it beyond private sector because it's now in your retail stores. So these products will also scan at point of sale checkout, but at the same time meeting all of the heavily regulated requirements for healthcare that there are. And now this next use case is one of my favorites. This is what we're calling an accessibility use case. It's using accessibility QR codes with GS1 Digital Link as the almost the base for it, right? Here you're looking at Zapper and Navilens, which are helping the visually impaired navigate their life as it pertains to purchasing products, and even maneuvering within public transportation. I know they have a few of these Navi codes all over New York at the subway stations to help those visually impaired people know that they're getting on and off at the right stop. But now this is spilling into the retail environment to help those that are blind and visually impaired to be able to see the ingredients on products that they wouldn't be able to see proper beforehand, right? So it's reading it out to them to let them know this has these products in it. So if they're allergic, they know that they're not going to buy that product and they can look for the one that fits within their realm of buying, because you don't want to buy something, especially as a blind person, that you're allergic to just because you couldn't read the ingredients. So utilizing GS1 Digital Link with 2D barcodes and the apps that are associated to Zapper and Navilens, they can not only shop properly and buy the stuff that won't harm them, but they can also cook their first meals or cook meals utilizing these apps, all being powered by GS1 Digital Link and the interoperability of this standard that's been created. So this use case is spilling into many areas of accessibility that have been missing because 1D barcodes were just never able to provide this, and it'll still go be bit checkout. So let's just jump into any of the questions that kind of come up.
Yeah, so I would recommend, I think everyone has the ability to unmute yourself if anyone would like to go ahead and ask a live question. please feel free to do so. I think we took a couple questions from the forms when people were signing up. So we're going to go ahead and I'm going to put these up here. Andrew, if you want to tackle them one at a time. Again, if anyone, feel free to chime in and ask questions live.
Let's do it. And feel free to cut me off if you come off mute as I'm talking and just, it's an open conversation at this point. So
Yes.
what is the difference between a regular QR code and a QR code powered by GS1? So as I was talking about having that product data inside of the URL, that's what makes this a different QR code, right? So when you're utilizing GS1 Digital Link with a QR code, it identifies the product. It has that additional data elements to further classify it or identify it, like an expiration date or batch lot or serial number. And having that in a web resolvable format makes that a GS1 powered QR code because it'll go beep at checkout and work throughout the supply chain. Whereas a regular QR code that we've seen them, you can scan it, go to a website, go to a menu, anybody can create that. And that's where the difference comes. This is something that anybody can create as well, but it has to follow a specific format for it to work in our business processes that we've been using for so long within industry. Okay, this next question. Is the transition period where both 1D and 2D barcodes are required only until the end of 2027? No. So the caveat here is if you and all of your downstream partners have updated your equipment properly, right? They can scan and consume the data on 2D barcodes and it's confirmed and tested. You can remove your 1D barcode as soon as possible, right? So the end goal here is to make sure that everybody that's a stakeholder within your supply chain is able to scan and consume 2D barcodes, then the 1D barcode can be removed. But since Sunrise 2027 is the target date to have retailers be able to consume the data that's on 2D barcodes for just point of sale checkout, that's going to be the start of it. Some brands are already moving fast enough and working with their downstream partners to where once that date comes, they're looking to get rid of that 1D barcode because of course real estate is always a big deal for marketing. But as brands are taking their time to get through this, it's going to take some time past 2027. So it's not a requirement until the end of 2027 because some of the downstream partners of some of the brands and manufacturers may not have readily updated their equipment fast enough to where they can just have that singular barcode on pack. So the best thing to do is to make sure you're aligned with all of your partners that are involved in your supply chain and communicate with them on a consistent basis, right? If they're not already involved with this migration. So it's going to be dependent for each brand in each business in each process.
I just noticed that there are some questions being posted in the chat also. So Kim says, I got some bot/fake scans from my QR codes. Any way to make it more secure and not have fake scans dilute my scan data? I feel like that may be more of a just general QR code question and not necessarily for GS1.
Yeah, I can speak to it a little bit because it sounds like fake scans would be as if it's trying to show that a consumer scanned it, but it's just a fake scan. I don't think that's anything malicious, as though that's really going to be skewing your data, right? On your scan data around who is consuming this barcode and looking to get information. I can't say that there's a way to keep robots from scanning your barcodes for your data itself, because you're going to want your consumers to scan, and being able to have those different data points is going to be helpful. There may be some noise if that's the case, but I don't think that I know that your barcode is not at risk if somebody is scanning it. But utilizing GS1 Digital Link, though, does add a layer of security for if a bad actor tries to hijack your barcode, because there's very specific data in there that's identifying the product in very specific ways. So recreating that, and you're, as the brand and manufacturer, you're in control of where these barcodes go. So if somebody tries to recreate that and hijack it, it's a bit more difficult, but it can't say that who is scanning and how it's being scanned is something that's going to be under the control of any brand or manufacturer, especially as we are starting to work more with machine vision and having automation throughout the supply chain. So you're going to have some bots that are scanning just to verify receipt and distribution of some packages. Some are just popping in. So we'll come back to the ones that came in through the form. What is the requirement that brands manufacturers need to follow? So the requirement is, if you're going to be implementing a QR code powered by GS1 Digital Link, is to make sure that you have it formatted formatted properly. There's a bunch of resources that we have created to help you as a brand and manufacturer to ensure that you're doing that. And we're also readily available to help you free of charge, right? This is a passion of ours to ensure that everybody's doing it properly. So the first requirement is making sure that it's encoded with the proper syntax, right? That website, your domain name, mixed with the product data is going to have the right formatting. So that G10 will always need to be in a 14-digit format, even if it's a G1012. It's those type of specifications. And then the main requirement for making sure this works at point of sale is to at least have the G10 in that GS1 Digital Link URL string. Next question from Taylor. Do you foresee majority of companies adopting GS1 QR codes before or after the 2027 initiative? I see a lot of companies migrating to and adopting now. So there's a few brands that already have products in circulation within market. A couple of them are Unilever, Kenvue, and a bunch of other brands. We won't get into all the names, right? But they already have products that have dual marked 2D barcodes with GS1 Digital Link inside of them next to their 1D barcode that are in circulation today. So a lot of them are trying to get ahead of the game. That way, once this implementation happens or the Sunrise 2027 occurs, they can actually start taking advantage of these use cases because of all the traceability it adds to their business and the efficiencies that it creates. All right, I think that's all the questions. How do I choose the right GS1 member organization to get my G10 for my barcodes? So the right GS1 member organization depends on where you're located in the world. We are in 118 plus growing countries or member organizations. So if you are in a specific country, there most likely is a GS1 member organization there that you can reach out to. So GS1 US, GS1 Canada, GS1 Brazil, GS1 Spain, GS1 UK, you name it. We're in 118 growing countries, and we all work together to ensure that the standards that we're putting out there is going to work interoperably for every business, no matter what market you're selling into. All right, next question. Is it okay to buy third-party barcodes instead of getting them from GS1? So this is a two-tiered question. If you are getting because the barcodes, we don't necessarily sell the barcodes, right? We are known as the barcode people, but what we actually provide are the numbers that go into them, that global trade item number and different identifiers. So you can get your barcodes from any solution provider or barcode provider as long as they're being encoded with a number that's coming from GS1 that's identifying it. We typically call that a GS1 company prefix. That's what's utilized to create that global trade item number. And this is just a number that's underneath those lines and spaces. This is something that's going to be very pertinent to identify your brand and the authenticity of your products as they go through the supply chain. Now, who you choose to create the barcodes to put in your package is up to you, as it's, of course, the brand's decision. And there's so many different solution providers that work with GS1 standards and make sure that they're implementing them properly. That'll help you to create and apply your barcodes to the packaging. The second portion of this question I'm going to answer is around 2D barcodes. And GS1 today is not creating images for 2D barcodes, right? So you're still going to be getting that same G10 or product identification number from GS1 and using the standard formats that we have globally created for industry by industry to ensure that they work when they're going through the supply chain. So you may choose whoever you like to create your barcodes as long as they are following the standards for when they're encoding the data that's going to be utilized in supply chain.
There's another question in the chat. I understand the benefits of a 3D code for retailers and consumers, but what are the benefits to adopt from a supplier perspective, besides being able to market/sell your products?
So that's where all of those use cases come up. I know we talked about just a few of them based on the sector, but there's not only use cases for meeting regulation and having additional data, and of course the consumer engagement, but this allows you to have better inventory management because of the additional data points in your barcode, better traceability and visibility to your supply chain, not only because you're able to know which products or which pallets of products are going through the supply chain, but you can even identify the exact product based on serialization or have better recall data or recall response for certain products based off of batch lot data. All of this is going to be an advantage to the supplier. Now, there is this thing called redirection, which utilizes link types and resolvers, which allows you to share certain types of information, not only with your consumers, but with your downstream partners to help make your supply chain more resilient. So if you're looking to share information and link to that information, or even just to have it inside of that barcode, that's going to help make your business more efficient. That's where these barcodes come in. And many suppliers are doing so, one, not because of the regulatory aspect, but because they have they're getting a full view of where their products are going in the supply chain, all the way into the retail point of sale and then after.
I'm going to go ahead, and I know these questions, the last two questions actually came in from some of our attendees prior to the call.
Okay. Seems that
Got it.
most standard jewelry RFID tags are too small, 13 millimeters height when folded, to accommodate a GS1 Digital Link QR code, minimum 18 millimeters square. Any suggestions? So your RFID tag is going to be encoding a web resolvable version of G10 or SSCC, but it's not going to be encoding it the same way. So, the tags themselves, of course, they're going to be utilizing EPC tag data standards and different bit encodings in order for that data to be inside of an RFID tag. If the case is that the tags that you're utilizing with all the data you have is too small to fit to accommodate a GS1 Digital Link QR code, I think there's confusion there because the RFID tag is going to be separate from your QR code. And you don't have to have all of the data inside of your QR code, right? You can link to the additional information that's not readily needed. So you're going to have a QR code with GS1 Digital Link and then an RFID tag. The tag will typically go behind the actual label when being affixed to AGM products or any products that are going to be utilizing dual identification like QR code with RFID. So I think I would need some more clarification around that question in order to give a better suggestion. Based on what I'm seeing, they're separate. The label itself that would have your digital link would be affixed to the RFID tag that's affixed to the package itself, and it wouldn't be visible easily to the human eye. But if you look at a lot of the products that you are buying within some AGM spaces, you'll see that there is a little wire tag that's kind of behind the label that is the RFID tag. It looks like, it's hard to describe, but it looks like maybe a little brain, but there's just a little tag that's the RFID tag that's encoding all the same information that your QR code is encoding. So when it being affixed to one product, it has to have the same information, the same G10, same expiration date, same batch lot. If any of that information is different, it's going to be very hard to reconcile if that product came from that specific batch or not.
That was way over my head. There was a whole bunch of stuff there that I didn't understand at all.
It was kind of a loaded question, if I feel, but we'll get through it. Please
Um,
reach out to me if you would like to have a longer conversation about that, whoever put that in there.
and this is the last one, I think. This is the last
Okay.
one.
Can I subscribe to a GS1 directly with you, or do I have to just subscribe and buy GS1 code on the official corporation EAN website? If I'm understanding this question correctly, when you work with your member organization, no matter what country you're in, that's where you're going to get your GS1 company prefix in order to create your G10 that goes into your EAN or UPC barcode. That is the only thing that you're subscribing to per se, because you're licensing a number to identify your product and identify you as the brand owner. How that number gets encoded into a barcode, may it be 1D or 2D, is completely up to the brand. If you're utilizing 2D barcodes powered by GS1 Digital Link, the only requirement is to have it formatted properly. So whomever you're using to create those 2D barcodes for you, they just have to know what the required format is to ensure that they're going to be interoperable. So you're not buying barcodes from GS1 anywhere in the world. You're only licensing the identifiers that are utilized to identify your product and you as the owner, brand, or manufacturer, supplier.
I'm sorry, I do have one more. What are the latest timeline deadlines for retailers and manufacturers, including any perspective on where most companies are within the journey of this project, which I think you kind of addressed that a little bit earlier. But
Yeah, so again, it's not a mandate. GS1 standards always are voluntary, not mandatory, except there are certain regulatory requirements that GS1 standards are the only thing that help fulfill and make it interoperable. I'm trying to remember all of that question, but as it pertains to utilizing GS1 standards in your supply chain, the best practice is to always follow the formatting that's being used all over the world, right? So 1D barcodes, we've been doing that. 2D barcodes, we've developed that over years, and now we're helping a lot of brands implement. So there is no sunset for when that 1D barcode ends, which means you can continue to utilize that past the date. So there's no actual mandate for when you have to have this done. By the end of
Oh, there it
2027, the
is.
retailers are expected to have their systems capable of consuming 2D barcodes for point of sale checkout just with the G10 at minimum. Oh, the question is, what are the latest timeline
That-
deadlines? Yeah, so there's no real timelines or deadlines for manufacturers or retailers, except by the end of 2027, of course, retailers are expected to have their systems updated to consume that 2D barcode and the data that's in it. Whereas manufacturers, they can have the choice of either adopting 2D barcodes or not. As I said, many brands and manufacturers and suppliers today have already done a lot of the legwork starting last year and even some before then for implementing 2D barcodes on pack because it's not a one size fits all process, right? Some brands can move faster than others. Others have a lot of different boxes to check to ensure that once they're implementing that barcode, it's going to actually work within their business processes. And we always say, make sure you have the right team together. Again, all of your stakeholders, all of the people that are involved in creating the product image and the product design, your marketing team, all of these people have to be in the same room because everybody has a part to play in making sure this implementation goes smoothly.
Awesome. Thank you so much. This was super informative. I know a lot of people, when we change the time, we're like, I can't make it at that time. So we're going to be sending the recording out to everyone afterwards. Feel free to reach out to myself or Andrew if you have any additional questions that we might be able to help with. I
Yeah.
guess that, yeah,
Good luck
yeah,
here. I know some of these questions were really good though. I'm gonna have to put these in my back pocket to as a frequently asked question kind of thing. But
yes.
wherever you are in your journey today, we're here to help. Reach out to us. We'll help you in that implementation, ensuring that you're following standard. And everybody's going to start at a different point. Some people already have QR codes on pack to where there's less work. Others don't, and so they have a lot more steps to take. But regardless, we're here to help.
Really. All right. Thanks a lot. Have a great rest of your day and week, everyone.
Thanks,
Thanks for
everybody.
joining. All right.